Hey everyone, I wanted to show you a quick video on what I'm working on. I'll have another video out later that will go through this process in greater detail, but as a quick rundown, I'm working on a MIDI controller that sends only system exclusive files so that we can change certain parameters on the Korg Kronos and we can see those changes real time. Something that doesn't happen with MIDI CC messages. So, our primary focus is on the CX-3 engine, and that is the organ voices for the Korg Kronos. And this is a CX-3 program. We are using the Roland A800 Pro. It has 61 keys. The action is kind of synth-like. It's not too different from the Kronos 61 key. However, as you get to the top of the key, it's almost impossible to press down. You can kind of get away with it. It takes a bit to get used to, but it does kind of have that springboard action more so than the Kronos 61. It has let's go over here to my control map. 8 buttons here, 9 faders, 9 buttons here that are also backlit, as well as 9 rotary knobs, and then we have 4 backlit buttons here. So these 4, these 9, these 8, 9, and 9, those are what I'm able to edit as far as the real-time control. And for each control map that this is set to, these buttons will do different things. Now, just as an example, the Roland here has a total of 20 control maps that can be stored inside of it, from 0 all the way up to 19. On the software, 0 cannot be edited, so the first Kronos control map starts at 1. And that corresponds with the combination for Tambour 1. When you're using the Kronos, depending on your preference for a live performance, you could be using setlist mode, combi mode, or program mode. So the focus for the first set of control maps is for combi mode. So let's just go to a initialized combination and we'll throw in any old organ into Tambour 1. Okay. Now, when you're in combination mode, if you're in timbre and track, these drawbars will not control the drawbars of the organ unless you switch to the tone adjustment, and you can see that over on the control surface page, where now when you move these sliders, it'll control the drawbars. Yeah, there we go. It's a bit laggy right now. And these buttons will turn on various things. But as you can see, for control map 1, these sliders are all able to control the digital drawbars of Tambour 1, all 9 of them, as well as this row of buttons. I can turn this row of 8 on using this first group of 8 here, and then this group of 8 turns on this second row. So that's this top row of 8 buttons and this bottom row of 8 buttons for here and here. And then these rotary controls, I can adjust the chorus and vibrato type, the amp gain, the expression, overtone, key click, and I can do a little bit of EQ boost. Whatever these are set to, like you can change this to say a noise level, and then this rotary control will then adjust the noise. It's this one here. There we go. Now, there's certain things that these knobs cannot do, is go into the negatives. So on the Kronos, if I turn the real rotaries here, I can go to -10 for the EQ mid and go up to +10. So I've got the negative range as well. But on here, I can't go to the negatives, and the highest it goes to is 127 steps. So the maximum for this first one, since it controls the vibrato chorus, it has 6 different settings. So the maximum is set to 6 steps. So these other ones are all set to 99. 99, yeah, okay. Alright, and as you turn them on the display, it'll show you what you're doing, and for the 9th knob here, it's the timbre 1 volume. And you can see that change if you go back to the mixer. The volume changes, and we can mute timbre 1 as well with the 9th button under the 9th rotary control. And of course these are the 9th drawbars. Now that's all very nice and well, but supposing you're working out of a combination that you've set up already and your organ is patched into timbre 2, because let's say your timbre 1 is being used with a piano right now. If that's the case, let's switch the control surface over to timbre 2. These buttons and controls, since they're mapped to timbre 1, because that's the way combi mode works with the Kronos, these will no longer control, well, not that they ever did, but they won't control timbre 2. So what you have to do is, I've got that set up on control map 2. So just turn the value knob over here, and as you can see, when you change the control map, it goes to and it has the name. So this is timbre 2. So if you have your organ in this timbre in combination mode, it'll work just like it did, like I showed you with timbre 1. And the same goes for, I have the control map set up for combi mode in timbre 3, in number 4, number 5, 6, 7, 8, and the 9th control map is timbre 16. So we have the first 8 timbres covered, and then if you have a combination like this stock one, Stradivarius goes pop, right? And lots of these stock combinations are already set up on these timbres. If you wanted to say unmute the last timbre and kind of sneak an organ in the back, like let's grab a percussion organ. So now, and you change that to the proper MIDI channel. You might change that to MIDI channel, or you could just leave it as MIDI channel 16. Because you want to just put an organ on it, you would go to the corresponding control map, which is number 9, and that's combination 16. And then this little line here says we're controlling the control maps. When we twist this knob, you can press these over buttons to change. Now we're changing the MIDI channel. So you can scroll up from 1 to 16, and now if we play on our MIDI controller, we get some sound coming on in timbre 16. And if we take a look at our tone adjustment page and we scroll down to timbre 16 just to check it out, you'll see that the drawbars are moving without touching the Kronos, but everything controlled on our MIDI controller here. So that's the purpose of this this particular setup, so that you can better perform with the CX-3 engine in kind of a live performance way. So let's go back to MIDI channel 1 and carry on with the next map. Go over here. Okay, so that was 9, and now this is number 10. And this is Combi Tambour. If, for instance, you want to kind of switch the roles, if you want these to stay drawbars, and you're in this combination, maybe you want to have these controls do the drawbars, in which you'd go to this setting, but you still want to be able to real-time control the volumes of each of your individual timbres in combination mode. Control map 10 does the first 8 timbres. So when I move these, it's not controlling drawbars anymore, but the first 8 tracks, the volumes, as well as the panning effect. So you got kind of real-time feedback for the panning for the first 8, group of 8 here, and you can mute all of them as well by pressing the buttons underneath here. Also, you can turn off and on your eye effects, your insert effects. There's 12 of them in the Kronos. There's the first 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now we've got all the 12 insert effects on, and just by the touch of the buttons we can turn those off if we like. So that's what control map 10 does. Control map 11 does the same exact thing, only we're controlling the other half of the timbres, the second group of timbre number 9 to 16. So that's the other 8. So that's 8 and 8, and this the 9th slider in both control maps will control the master volume. And we can see that change if you go to the Master Effects / Total Effects page. You can control the volume of the whole instrument with the 9th slider here. MIDI, not MIDI, but control map 12 is the sample in audio in / sampling. If you want to control, like if you've got a microphone or other synthesizers or instruments plugged into the back of the Kronos, you can control that with this particular control map. The volume, the panning, effects, sends. This is the use global button, which grays all of this out. that can be toggled with the 9th button here. So that gets that mode going. So in the rotaries, there's a virtual center. So if you're anywhere close to the center, it will automatically snap to CO64, and that's panning it right in the center. So the next control map is drawbar, the upper drawbars. And from control map 13 and onward, these are control maps not for combis, but for to be used in program mode. So if you're not going to be using that, like you're just going straight out of program mode and you want to set up a basic organ, you can choose like this one, for instance, pictures at an exhibition, and you'd see the drawbars are moving, and that's these 9 drawbars here. And you can also edit other functions, and when you press a button, it'll give you a kind of what you're doing. So the first button here is the chorus and vibrato off and on. When the light's on, it's on. When it's off, the chorus vibrato is off. And this is the lower chorus vibrato for the lower manual, in case you have a split, which you can activate with this button here. And when you press that, the split, the lower drawbars appear. And you can also get your percussion settings here, off and on, loud, soft, that sort of thing. Wheel brake, how fast the wheel brake goes, if it's slow or fast. You can assign your percussion to the upper manual or the lower manual, and then other various settings. You can turn on the special EX mode for your custom drawbars, which you can manipulate with another program map, which we'll get to in a minute. So when you split the keyboard, these other lower drawbars appear. So we go to the next control map, 14, and I'll split that again. And now our faders are controlling the lower manual. And this is particularly helpful if you're going out of program mode, because the sliders on the Kronos are by default mapped to the upper drawbars. So now we can control upper drawbars and the lower drawbars without having to go into here and press and drag these, or rotate these up or down, or get this one here and here. So we can control upper and lower without having to do anything. You just reach for either sets of drawbars and you're there. Next control map is 15, and we're getting close to the end. Now this is for the upper drawbars again. However, you'll see that it's not working. I'm pulling on the drawbars and they're not doing anything. That's because in program mode we have this EXI1 and EXI2, and this particular program isn't using EXI2. If we go to like eruption split, now we have this top program, what we're used to seeing, and then it's duplicated in this lower one again. So this, if you're going to go to program mode, this is the way to go. Otherwise you'll run into octave, weird octaves and pacing and splits, because it doesn't work. If you want to run in program mode and have a double manual setup, you'll have to do it this way. Otherwise, if we go into this screen here and you enable the split, your upper has to stay at 0, and you can put this only 2 octaves, which then you have to go to your MIDI controller and octave it up, and then you have to, if the keyboard is split at C, you're going to be when you get up to the top of your MIDI controller, you're going to be triggering the upper voice instead of having everything on the lower. So if you ever monkey with that, you'll know what kind of trouble that gets into. So this is certainly the way to do it, is by using both EXC1 and EXC2. So the Kronos is controlling by default. This is the upper voice. You'll see how that is right here in the 61 keys. It's going upper, and this is the lower one. That's what these are controlling, because this is EXI1. So if we go back to 13, now we're controlling these sets of drawbars, and the Kronos will control these sets of drawbars. So we've got our low C and our high C on an upper manual, which is separate from the lower manual that also has the same voice range, exactly the way it would be on a real organ, which this isn't a real organ, but it is a Hammond. So it's like the same thing. You have all your sets of drawbars, right? So the lower, if you want to use a split, I don't know why you would, because this is kind of weird now. You can make it so that you're controlling the lower of the EXI2, but then of course you're no longer controlling the upper drawbars of EXI1. But so just want to let you know you have that control. This control map is 17. Let's split that. Let's turn on that. Okay, here we go. Now we're controlling those custom drawbars, all 8 of them, and you can go into the Kronos page here and go into drawbars and EX drawbars, and these are your special ones here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and this group of 4. So that's these 4 faders here. This is the 9th one. This changes the mode, because these have the specific length here, and we can change these by scrolling through the pitch mode from preset 1, 2, 3, 4, and these numbers will be changing because of the different presets. And then we have custom, so we can customize these to be anything we like, and we can do that by using the rotary knobs. This group of 4. This group of 4, of course, will control these first group here, and we can do that by using the 9th rotary knob down all the way up to custom, and whoops, where were we? Here we go. So now we can control these and these. So otherwise you have to come up here and tap it with your finger or stylus, and you have a menu, but so that this is scrolling through this in real time with the turn of a knob here. Okay, and we can make this EX, this special drawbar mode, go away with this button here, or enable it, disable it. So that's what that control map does. That's 17. Now 18. This one, if you want to kind of customize while you're holding down a chord and you're listening for the sound to change, you want to really tweak your CX-3 engine. That's what these last control maps are for. You've got your percussion level, which you can turn on, off, loud with these 4 buttons again, and you can kind of use these faders to control these as well as these here. So you can kind of easily edit those without having to come up to the touch screen. And then our last control map is number 19. If you like, we can. The rotary speaker has tons and tons of things you can edit: the fast speed, acceleration. So this is the rotor, and the 8 rotary knobs will control these various settings. The ninth knob will control this, and we can turn off the speaker simulator, and we can control the horn balance or all of the horn values here with the faders, and turn on various effects in this page. Like you'll see certain things changing. There's our post crossover or pre crossover. Now there's certain things that these controls won't do. Again, like this for instance, if you want to mess with this, you have to do this by the Kronos, because it goes all the way up to positive 180 and all the way down to 170, and then another 180, and then another thing free. But again, that's going into the negatives, as well as this setting here, and these controls don't go into negatives, so that's why it's only these 8 controls here and here that these controls are mapped to in this particular control map. If you want to do this right here, you just select it, use the value slider on the Kronos. So that's what I'm working on. That's the short and long of it. I'll have a more polished video coming out later to explain what this controller is mapped to do in real time with real feedback on the screen, so you can better control your CX-3 engine in a kind of a live or studio environment, so that this control surface can be used for doing other things, like with synths or strings or piano or whatever.